Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another edition of Infection Podcast. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on X at Nicholas M. Craig or check out my website, nickcraig.com. Joining me, as always, from the great state of Idaho, Brian with an I Aldridge. Hello, Brian.
Hello. Hey, thank you very much. If you want to find me, of course, at Boise Computer on X, or if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on GabGet or whatever the ones that you may look for me on. So, Nick, how
I have a personal
anything
question.
stand out news-wise for you this week that you weren't expecting?
I don't know if that's a setup, but I have a personal question before that.
Okay, let's hear a personal question.
A personal question. Have you played Pal World yet?
Pal World? No, I never heard of it.
Oh God, dude, this game is blowing up. What do you mean you've never heard of it? It's like it is the most played game.
I've seen it in the. I take that back. I've seen the title. It has something to do, like they cloned Pokemon or something. Is that what it?
Yeah.
Like people are upset that it's too much like.
Oh.
I've seen that.
Can you refresh for me? You're all choppy. Let's see if we clear that up. Yeah, so Pal World is it's blowing up. I mean, looking at the Steam charts for it right now, it's got 615,000 people playing it right now. Its peak today was 1.4 million, and its all-time peak 4 days ago was 2 million people. And this game is I think it's $30.
Yeah, $29.99.
So it's kind of interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I almost bought it Monday night, but I was busy.
Mm-hmm.
I almost bought it last night, and I drank too much, so I thought that was a bad idea. So I do plan on purchasing this game in the next couple of days, and obviously we're not breaking any news with that. But apparently it's like Ark, but you're catching Pokemons, but they're not really Pokemon because it's not Nintendo. They just look, a lot of them look
they're
like
not licensed by
they're
them.
not licensed, and that's creating a whole monster within itself. This is, I know why this is blowing up, because Nintendo has essentially dropped the ball on the Pokemon IP. They haven't really done anything unique or cool with that game in 15 years or something. I mean, it's been an egregious amount of time since they've done anything realistically with the IP, unless you consider that Detective Pikachu movie, which was terrible. That. So this thing is freaking exploding. And apparently it's an open world survival crafting game. So I think we need to do our due diligence on this, Brian.
Oh, well, I mean, I can look at it. I don't know if I want to play it. We'll see. I mean,
I'm going to purchase it.
Like, I mean, if that many people are playing it, there's got to be some pretty interesting things. I mean,
here's the thing.
As far as gameplay.
So Steam. Yeah, we look at the Steam reviews from time to time. It's a feature of this program. It's got 155,000 reviews. 94% are positive. For a game that's been out 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I mean, it's brand spanking new. January 19th. It's been out less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Huh. Yeah, I'll check it out. I mean, I've only seen the controversy, regarding them possibly infringing on licenses, mods, people trying to create mods so that it actually would swap out the characters for the
now that is an issue,
like
but that's not their fault. I mean, mods are mods. I don't know if you're really going to be able to take them to court over that. I just purchased it, so
there we go. So let's see. You have to let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm getting a little spooked because I know how addictive some of these games like Ark can be. So yeah,
you want to have a job on the other end? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really work a whole hell of a lot anyway, according to many people. So I mean, it kind of works out great for me since I don't have a real job. So
I mean, you could just sit there and play that game while you're doing your job.
I mean, it's no different than what I do. I'm playing Monopoly Go and Bingo Blitz on my phone during work anyway. So I mean, what's the difference?
Perfect.
Okay, I was curious if you had played or heard of Pal World. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, if I've seen it just kind of passing by and some of the things, and I saw that there was controversy, but I didn't realize there were that many people playing it or that they were finding it that interesting.
I mean, it's hot. I mean, it's like I don't know the last time I've seen a game like this. That popped up out of nowhere less than 2 weeks ago. I've got 29 friends who own it on my Steam list.
That's crazy. That's weird how it's just so popular so quickly.
Our friend, let's see. Let me look at a couple of our friends from the show that are playing it. Our friend Saul Goodman has got 35 and a half hours. Green Man Cartoons is playing it right now. He's got 22 hours. Not Green Man Cartoons has 27 hours. Kramit's got 82 hours in the game. Jeez, Kramit. Jonesy's got 17 hours into it. So, I mean, these are some people that, you know, they know a thing or two about survival games. They're playing. So
yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Infection Podcast on the
top. They've got it on console, so I see.
It's on Xbox.
Steam. Okay.
Apparently, it's got 19 million players across both platforms.
That's crazy.
That's what I was just reading.
Makes you wonder how much depth there is to it.
Apparently, well, so it's in Unreal. So I mean, you know, inherently, I'm sure it's got a whole bunch of a game. Well, and here's the other thing too. It's at best 2 weeks old. Excuse me. At best, it's a week and a half old. So, I mean, long term, how does a game like this work? Because, I mean, that's, you know, the thing with when you look at
is there end game? Is there the stuff beyond once you do kind of the initial?
Well,
grinding?
Exactly. And I mean, the original Ark had this problem, Brian, where it was like, okay, we got all of our dino dozers built up, and we've got all the weapons
besides war.
And now what do we do besides burn the server to the ground every night when we attack each other? There really wasn't much of an end game. They added an end game. I will admit I was already gone by the time they added that. And I would assume that this is probably pretty similar. $30. The fact that it's $30, which is not cheap, it's also not expensive. And it's got this much play and pull is pretty crazy. I mean, you're halfway to a AAA title at $30, and it's early access.
Told you early access is coming back. So,
well, with a game like this
for a
that
chance
apparently
of it being good.
It apparently works. Yep. I mean, if it wasn't a solid enough game, it wouldn't have 94% positive reviews out of 155,000.
Well, and if it's interesting enough before they have all the content in.
Yeah,
you know, that's a good sign. Because that's the problem. Sometimes you get games that there's just, you know, it's early access and there's nothing to do after the first however little bit. You're like, okay, now what? And the same thing as we said with Ark, it was either you went to war with people or you just kept on building a bigger base or bigger dino, you know, getting more dinos, bigger dinos for no real reason. And then they added this end game thing, which really was just grind. I mean, if you look at the thing that Ark did with all the elements and making it to where then you could power your armor. They were just creating a non-ending grind to keep you going towards the end game, which was all focused on PvP in the end. I mean, that was their end game. I'm just wondering what this is going to be.
But let's be perfectly honest about it. And I don't know, maybe you weren't trying to say it in a negative way, but I mean, grind is an end game. I mean, you really don't have you can't have a long-term story or whatever without grind, especially in a game like this that's an open world survival. There is no quote.
Keeping the grind interesting.
Story. Correct.
Because like with WoW, your grind was around raids.
Yeah.
And so you would grind to get the resources you needed to be able to do the raids and all the end game content. But they would to get all those resources, it just didn't come automatically. You had to grind and get it all together so that you could do those things. And it created what seemed like a meaningful grind. I didn't find that grind that they put in Ark as rewarding at the very end. Like it just didn't pull me in to want to do it. You know, and that's what'll be interesting here is can they get something that the top level players will want to do and that makes sense, and it's just not like, okay, well, I guess I have to go do this. Yeah. Graphics look good. I mean, it looks like a nice big open world, cartoonish. Yeah.
It's in Unreal. I mean, so it's kind of what I would expect. I have, you know, Brian, I've been playing some video games the past couple weeks.
Oh,
I don't know who, somebody sent me a direct message on, it was either Discord or Steam. And they're like, actually, it was our friend UGX Vibe. His message to me, holy shit, you're playing a video game. And I'm playing the Bethesda game, Starfield. Been enjoying that the last couple weeks. So that's been going pretty well.
And they're putting out some updates for Starfield, fixing
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the bugs and things like that. So
Yeah.
I've been playing a little bit of that. I've just been playing a couple of different games. We got Baldur's Gate to play with my wife.
Yeah. How's that?
It's a very difficult game to play as far as it's definitely D&D rules. The interface would be a lot easier on a computer versus Xbox because of how many spells and different things. It's kind of difficult to do all these things with the limited number of buttons of a controller. Where if I had, for instance, like, that mouse that you have, I have one of those, but if I use that where it has all those buttons on the side of it, like 24 buttons or something, yes, that right there.
Yeah,
that would be perfect for this kind of game because you could assign a bunch of abilities because it's one that has all the abilities that you have in D&D, but you have to assign them to kind of a quick panel, and you don't assign them all, and I think that kind of limits you as far as what you're doing. But it's still, it's got a ton of content. It looks fun, but it's just, I think it's kind of a grind getting into it to the level, especially for my wife who, there's a lot of sitting and figuring out and waiting, and it's just, I think we just need to get past that.
Yeah. Well, that's always the tough part of these games. And I'm a really bad video gamer. This has been well documented on the show. This is not news to anybody. Sometimes that hump can be too heavy to get over.
Yeah. Well, I've just been trying not to push her on it and just kind of go, hey, you want to try playing it? But we're in this part where it's just getting everything figured out, figuring out all the spells, getting all the which ones you want to use. It's just, there's a lot to it. Just like in D&D. I mean, you remember how much setup versus playtime. There's a ton of setup.
8 hours of setup for an hour of playtime. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'm trying to avoid, is having that just kind of worn out from the constant setup or trying to figure out things. It's not like Diablo where you just run and start swinging. It's not at all like that. And there's a lot of different ways to attack these. There's a lot of questions that come up of, do you want to have this person, go around with you? Do you want to kill them? Do you want to, there's a good path, there's a bad path. There's so many choices. It's like, am I just totally screwing myself like here in a couple of weeks, am I going to be like, oh, I can't believe I made that decision and now I can't do this.
Yeah.
But it's very much like regular D&D. So
yeah, it's not obviously the same way because it is campaign driven, but I'm kind of in that with Starfield right now. There's all these like different intergalactic colonies and groups, and the same thing. You're picking up characters. You can have them follow you around. You can have them wait in ships. It's kind of a weird.
I just take them all. I don't know. I don't know if there's a downside of that, but for mine, I just like, if they want to join me, sure. You can join me. There is something that comes up later in Starfield where you're going to have to make a decision that's permanent. But luckily with Starfield, there's not a ton of those. There's a couple, but you don't seem to get locked into too many other than the one I'm not going to ruin for you.
Okay. Well, there you
go. All right. Do you have a preference on one thing I wanted to mention? Have you looked at our economy news? This is just 2 shows worth of economy news building up.
I don't typically like to do this. I don't typically like showing our notes to people, but I think it's relevant to do here. So here you go.
Yeah, those are all the layoffs that has happened since the last 2 shows. That's thousands of people being laid off. I just, I try to keep track because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, there's been things that have happened. That's just been in weeks. We've had that many, almost 2,000 from Microsoft alone in layoffs. So just kind of crazy. But I just wanted to mention that, like, you figured it would slow down.
Well, we need to talk about the Microsoft one because this one is pretty big.
Okay.
So Microsoft announced they're laying off about 1,900 people from their video game workforce, and a lot of this is coming from the Activision Blizzard merger. That's where a lot of this is coming from, which makes sense. I mean, when you when you already are a video game publisher and distribution company, and a video game developer and publishing company, and you purchase another video game development publishing company, you obviously don't need to replicate all of your internal processes at a separate company. I mean, that's just to be expected. I know that I'm sure for the folks over at IGN who put this article out, this was a wild idea, but you don't, when you're going through an M&A, a merger and acquisition, you don't need the same thing twice in your company. You just need one of them.
Yep.
And that sucks.
Well, for instance, they got rid of the Activision Blizzard esports organization. I'm sure Microsoft already has something through whatever other system they have, but that's what they laid off most of that whole department. They did announce their new CEO or president of Blizzard, Joanna Faries is her name. I think she used to be she managed the Call of Duty League.
Okay.
But they have put her as president of Blizzard Entertainment. So it's pretty surprising. And then there was a survival game that they canceled. So Blizzard was working on a survival game. And it was supposed to be kind of in the WoW universe, I think, or something like that. I don't know. It's kind of an RPG style for sure. But they announced there that they're canceling the whole thing. They announced that they were making it in 2022. And then here this past week, they announced that they're canning it, which is kind of sad. It would have been interesting to see what they came up with. I wonder if this is, like Mike Ybarra, he left. I wonder if there's certain people who were overseeing that were part of the 1900 and they just decided that it wasn't worth it, wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah. So this image is bringing back memories, and I don't remember what the memories are, but we talked about this.
We talked about this when they first, in 2022, when they first announced it. Yeah.
And is this all we ever saw? This is the only thing I ever remember seeing was this.
I never saw any gameplay. I didn't see any of that. It was just screenshots.
Was there any other concept art, or was this it?
I don't really remember seeing anything other than maybe one or two still.
I vividly remember this image, but that's it.
Yeah, Blizzard survival game. Let's see if there's.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
gonna see if there's any other images that they show. I see that one, and I see one that looks like. Yeah, there's another one where it's like a mixture of images that an artist kind of put together that don't really show anything. They're drawing art, not actual gameplay.
Yeah, here's the thing with these projects. So Microsoft purchases Activision Blizzard. $70 billion acquisition. You go through this process. Depending on how far down the line this game was, which my guess would be it probably wasn't super far down the line. You're like, well, okay, if you don't even have a product at 10%. Like, are we really going to continue down this road? The answer is probably.
Well, let's look at the industry. I mean, they're also looking at, is this something that we want to, with our limited funds, because I mean, just look at the whole list of all these studios that are either firing people, canceling projects, laying off whole studios, things like that. Is this where we want our funds that are going to be restricted to be going? To this survival game, or do we want them going to IPs that we know are going to be successful? And I bet you that's kind of the thinking that they're having to go along.
Yeah, and in terms of what does that mean for you and I as the end consumer, that kind of sucks when you might not have the new hot IP that comes out. You might not get, it wouldn't be an IP at the time, but the new hot game, the new story, the new campaign, the new this, the new that. When that doesn't come out, it might not come out because as you just noted, are we willing, or are we in a position to take that risk right now? And I think most of these companies would admit, no, we're not in a position to take that risk.
I mean, Google just laid off 1,000 people. I mean, so they've got Microsoft with almost 2,000 people.
But
but maybe it's in one department, which means that.
Well, then
they're drastically reducing their outlook. And I think that was their hardware department as far as making phones and the physical devices.
Sure.
But a lot of these other ones, I mean, Riot just laid off 530 people. Then they're shutting down their Riot Forge. Um, so that's huge for Riot. That's what, owned by Tencent now, isn't it?
It is 100% owned by Tencent. Yep.
Now. So it's not just Embracer Group that we're running into. I saw an interesting article that was talking about, and they took a survey at GDC, and 35% of devs affected by layoffs last year.
Sure.
So 35% of the people that they asked said that they were affected. 7% responded they had been laid off, while 17 saw colleagues let go. Another 11% reported layoffs elsewhere in their company. But I think this is for all major studios. This is is common right now. I mean, people are just being let go left and right. And, we talked about it a number of weeks ago. This is bracing for impact. They're trying to survive the current economy, which is horrible.
Well,
there was one other one really quickly.
Sure.
Game industry leaders say they're braced for up to 2 years of pain. That's 2 years of pain from now. They're thinking that this is going to continue 2 more years.
Mm.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, and it's even outside the video game industry. Did you see UPS is laying off 1,900 people?
Major layoffs there as well.
Yeah.
Part of that, I think, is the competition from Amazon. Amazon has pretty much built their own UPS, and they're actually larger than UPS now.
Yeah, plus their continued reliance on the postal service for all of their other deliveries. Yep. But and one of the reasonings for the layoffs over at UPS was less shipments, right? Less activity, which is a sign of companies doing less business, shipping less products, individuals buying less, meaning they don't need to have as many things delivered to their house. So it's all in all pretty rough. It's pretty doom and gloom.
This CEO wanted to be anonymous, but he said, if 2023 was the year of layoffs, he said 2024 is going to be the year of closures. He says, just like we saw layoffs last year, he says you're going to see studios closing now.
We saw a whole bunch of studios close last year too.
Well, yeah, but it's supposed to get a lot worse, and that's where it's going to be interesting to see how what major companies that we're like, oh, those are forever companies are going to be deciding to either get purchased or to shut their doors.
Well, and it'll be those larger studios. A lot of the studio closures that we talked about, for the most part, were relatively indie. They weren't super large companies with big active games and game bases. But there's no, I don't say this to make this a prediction or forecast, but you look at somebody like Studio Wildcard. I mean, what do they do? I mean, this is a company that has one product, essentially. Yep. Yes, I know that Arc 2 and whatever the hell's on the horizon and everything, and
they're not making money off of that yet.
They're not making money off of that yet. And what do they do? What does Studio Wildcard do? Because they essentially have one product.
Yep, and that's the problem for them is, especially right now, there's not new purchases of Arc happening at the moment, and they haven't started selling Arc 2 yet, as far as people aren't seriously getting it. But it is supposed to come out in the next year, so it'll be interesting to see if that actually takes off. It's what people are expecting. Mm-hmm. Another one is the Devolver's Artificer studio laid off about half of their employees. So Devolver has been one that's been pretty active at the GDC, different places. They always show a large presentation, usually video, pre-recorded. But yeah, this is one for them. They laid off half a studio. Trying to think of some other ones that are major. Wemo Games is one. They're shutting down. I don't know if you remember. I'm trying to remember what. They're one of the VR developers. They're shutting their doors. Seems like a lot of the VR guys are shutting down.
Well, and
I think they've kind of given up.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, the Apple Vision Pro is too expensive, and I don't exactly know. What would be interesting? I don't know where I was. I don't know what I was reading or where I saw this, but I think Unity is what they're using for the Apple Vision. Don't be surprised if Apple purchases Unity.
Yeah, well, especially with how Unity's doing right now, Unity's struggling. So this would be the perfect time for them to come in and say, "Hey, you want your problems to be solved?"
Well, you're building your whole platform using essentially this back end, and if you don't have any control over it, Apple's not a big fan of not having complete and total control over their ecosystem. That's a very big Apple thing, and it's what's made their products and devices so successful over the last decade or so.
Another one that's laid off half of theirs is there's this. It's an Embracer THQ Nordic studio, but it's Black Forest Games. They made Destroy All Humans. I don't remember if you remember that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Last Ronin was a game that they made. So, I mean, they're still making games, but they laid off half of their employees there. Of course, that's another one of those Embracer. It's been they've been just been going nuts, laying people off.
But hold on, Brian. I have to jump in here. None of these studios that we're talking about are making new actively, like, these are not hot games that anybody is playing.
At least that we know of. Are there titles that they're making that they haven't announced yet?
Well,
but it's hard. It's hard to say. People Can Fly. That's another one. They said they laid off part of their workforce, 30 employees plus 20 which has 20 developers in there from Project Gemini. I'm trying to think of what they. I think there was one being published by Square Enix, so would have been a major title if it would have gotten there.
I mean, okay. So this Black Forest Games, I'm not trying to call them out, but so this is their SteamDB page.
Mm-hmm.
Online is how many people are currently playing their games. There's 31 people playing Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. There's 39 people playing Destroy All Humans. There's 11 people playing Fade to Silence, and there's one person playing Gina Sisters.
Gianna Sisters, yeah, that's
Gianna. There's less than 100 people playing all of their games combined.
Yep.
They don't have an active product.
And that's the thing is when you release a game and then you expect to make money off of it for the next 5
years. These are old games.
Guaranteed anymore. Yeah.
Well, no, I guess Destroy All Humans isn't that old. It's only been out 2 and 3. Well,
2020, so it's 3 years old.
Yeah, 3.5 years.
4 years old. But the thing is, they're not. There's too many games now. People aren't going to sit there and play Destroy All Humans for 5 years. If you don't have a bunch of content and a really active player base.
How could you not lay off 50% of your workforce? What are these people doing all day?
Yeah. How are you making money?
There's no revenue.
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. I don't want to go through all of these, but there's tons and tons. Ruiner developer laid off 80% of their studio. I mean, it's never ending. But I think that one was like 60 or 70 people in total. So still plenty of layoffs. As I said, I don't want to get caught up on that too much.
Okay. Well, where do we go from here then?
All right. Well, let's go down to where was it? There was the whole deal with Epic, and they had won that deal with Apple, and Apple was supposed to change their terms of service. But the problem is, Epic is saying that they used bad faith compliance in the court ruling.
Apple did? No. Say it ain't so.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. So they're looking at there, and they're calling the store changes hot garbage. So I'm trying to find here a direct quote from him. He says, Apple's plan to thwart Europe's new Digital Markets Act law is a devious new instance of malicious compliance. They're forcing developers to choose between App Store exclusivity and the store terms, which will be illegal. Which will be illegal under DMA, or accept a new, also illegal anti-competitive scheme rife with new junk fees on downloads and new Apple taxes on payments they don't process. Apple proposed that it can choose which stores are allowed to compete in their App Store. They could block Epic from launching the Epic Game Store and distributing Fortnite through it, for example, or block Microsoft, Valve, Good Old Games, or new entrants. The Epic Game Store is the number 7 software store in the world, behind the 3 console stores, 2 mobile stores, and Steam on PC. We're determined to launch on iOS and Android and enter the competition to become the number 1 multi-platform software store on the foundation of payment competition, 0 to 12% fees, and exclusive games like Fortnite. Epic has always supported the notion of Apple notarization and malware scanning for apps, but we strongly reject Apple's twisting this process to undermine competition and continue imposing Apple taxes on transactions they're not involved with. There's a lot of more hot garbage in Apple's announcement. It will take more time to parse through the written and unwritten parts of this horror show. Stay tuned.
Ouch.
So instead of complying, they just spread their fees other places.
They did comply.
It sounds like.
I mean, it sounds like they complied with the court order.
They said that they will collect a 12 or 27% revenue share from developers that opt out of the Apple system.
Yeah, they're just finding a way around it. That's the problem.
So if you opt out of the 30% fee, we'll charge you 27%.
Correct.
Fee.
Yeah, through a different way.
Yeah. So this may go back to court.
Why do you hire corporate attorneys and have tens of millions of dollars a year's worth of attorneys on payroll for this?
Yeah, and this it'll be interesting to see what the courts say about this, because they're like, okay, you can't charge 30%, but can you turn around and just pretend through other means that are important, charge a 27% fee when you're offloading what you're actually doing?
Yeah. So I'm not surprised or shocked or none of those words are accurate to describe that. I mean, Apple will find a way to charge whatever that is.
Yeah. And so we'll see what keeps happening. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, with Riot, they were minimizing studios, things like that. They also have shut down their efforts to a streaming rival to Twitch. So they were supposed to be making a rival to Twitch that was supposed to compete in some way, especially probably in China. And they are shutting that down. You're going to love the paywalls. But they have decided to shut that down. And so this is probably making Twitch a little bit more relieved. I don't know if you saw that Twitch is going to be adjusting their whole Twitch Prime gaming subs to make it so that people so we'll be getting a little bit less from those now. So they're taking I think now they're changing their caps on it with like a 70-30 revenue split, things like that. So Twitch has been having issues with their income here. We've seen it in a couple different reports in different ways. But
did you see this story today? Pokimane is leaving Twitch and going to YouTube.
Yeah, I saw something that she announced that she was leaving. Do you know
she's going to
where
YouTube?
She's going? YouTube.
She announced that her first broadcast will be on YouTube tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific. So 3 Eastern, 12 o'clock on the West Coast. She'll be on YouTube.
So is this a sign that YouTube's plan is working? Long-term plan.
So, long-term plan, yes. From their own doing, no. I mean, the problem is Twitch is a one-trick pony. It's a streaming platform, and that's all that they've got. They tried getting in the VOD space where you could upload videos. Nobody ever did that. It never took off. YouTube, on the other hand, a Google product, has got their fingers in a gazillion different baskets. So while Twitch is hemorrhaging cash because advertisers don't have any money to spend, the same thing is happening with YouTube and Google, but they can float that money all throughout the company. I mean, Alphabet can float that money wherever they want. And YouTube is still an incredibly strong platform that is growing in live.
With, I think, a little bit less restrictions.
Big time less restrictions. Yeah. And, say what you want about YouTube and Google, No, we upload our show there. We don't get paid by YouTube. I don't know that we've ever received even a penny from any sort of monetization on our channel, or if we have, Brian's taken it all and obfuscated it. Possibly. Yeah, he's got that new house, so I mean, who knows where all that YouTube money has been flowing straight into Brian's checking account. But they're a platform that, yes, is a little bit more open, and also, Brian, they don't react to the culture as much as Twitch does and did, where the tiniest little controversy, and oh my God, Twitch press release, change policy, this, move the YouTube and Google
banning people here, kicking people here.
YouTube doesn't care. I mean, they just do their own thing. People are constantly mad at them. They don't care. And they just don't, and they don't have to, because where do I go every single day when I get home from work? I check my YouTube sub box. What do I do before I go to bed at night, or I'm getting ready to go to bed, put something on to fall asleep to? Go to my YouTube sub box. I'm not going to Twitch. I haven't gone to Twitch at this point, it's been probably a freaking decade since I've gone to Twitch. I mean, honest to God, it's just not a platform that I use at all outside of this show. And they've got the cash to withstand this, and they're stealing away the big people. Twitch can't afford to pay these people, Brian. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Is if I'm Twitch and I'm trying to negotiate with Pokimane, who I don't even know, I don't think I've ever watched, but I didn't even know what she looked like. You can't compete. I mean, Twitch is not in a position where they can offer these people a gazillion dollars. Now, they probably could. They could pull the Rumble approach where you offer these people, 10-year, $100 million contracts when everybody knows Rumble won't be around in 10 years, or if they are, they won't have the $100 million to pay you. So they could have probably gone with that approach, but that's not good for business.
Well, side question here really quick.
Yeah.
On Twitch, the buttons, they have like all the buttons on the left-hand side. How do they decide what shows up there? Because there's a bunch that I don't follow. Like there's a little camera, recommended channels below that. How do they decide? Because like, for instance, Amaranth is always there for me, and I don't watch Amaranth.
I see her on mine as well.
Okay, why did this shows you where they're going? Because on mine, it's just chatting, Amaranth, which is one of the same type of thing. These are mostly people, boob streamers, that I don't watch.
Are you logged into the infection account?
No, I'm logged into my account.
So the only time I use the infection account is when we're looking at stuff on the show, because I really don't go to Twitch. And I love this. Live channels will think you like, and it's all boob streamers, because that's the only thing we look at on the show. It's the only time we go to Twitch.
You jump in there and be like,
to look at their policies. Yeah. So, yeah, and then this.
So now
this
it thinks
chick
that's
is
all we
cooking
want to
dinner.
watch.
Yeah, and this chick's cooking dinner.
Well, there you go.
She's sponsored by AT&T. That's a pretty big advertiser.
Making money. She's got 10.8K viewers.
Yeah, she's eating looks like some sort of fried rice.
It looks good. It's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought I was curious, because like there's all these streamers under recommended, and you're obviously
an algorithm,
not using my
Sure.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not using my history to be able to decide this, because I've never seen. Mm-hmm. I promise you, they're not.
I don't know. Maybe I've been in your computer watching things on your. Maybe I've been watching things on your Twitch account, Brian.
Yeah, maybe you've logged into my Twitch account, and that's the problem.
Have you not noticed those
our infection Twitch account?
You haven't noticed all the credit card transactions for Twitch Twitch Prime subscriptions and Twitch bits that I've been purchasing
from little things about people's bathwater.
I've been purchasing a lot of this on your account for years on your Twitch account, and you have not caught me. A sinister act.
That's perfect.
No, I mean Twitch is so they just I don't know. I don't know how they sustain themselves long term. The industry as a whole,
other than being owned by Amazon.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing: being owned by Amazon is great, but Amazon is not. Jeff Bezos isn't a complete and total idiot. I mean, he knows when something is making money and when it's not. And yes, can they shift around cash to keep Twitch loaded up? Yes. The problem with Twitch is the same issue that Spotify has, Brian. They don't produce any content. Everything that they produce, everything that's on their website, they are either paying out people contracts, big money contracts. They've got really lucrative rev splits with them. Or if it's just you and me, they're just paying for bandwidth. We're making Twitch no money. And they are just shelling out bandwidth for our show.
Yep.
So all its money is just constantly dripping out of the company everywhere. And that's why you've seen Spotify make such a big push for podcasting, because it's the one thing that they don't have to pay per stream. Every single song you stream on Spotify costs them money. And it's the same thing with Twitch. It's not sustainable.
Well, I know Twitch is trying to come out with different ways of being better, but I mean, they're right now, I think, having a hard time competing with places like YouTube or even Rumble. There's a lot of people that are switching over to Rumble just because there's not all the restrictions.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Rumble sucks. The platform is garbage. No, it does. I mean, it's just a terrible platform. Brian, I haven't said this, but like, I sometimes have to upload the show like 3 times because it just gets stuck on the screen. It just stops uploading. It's a royal pain in the ass. The user interface sucks. The mobile app is garbage. I'm glad it exists. I hope it gets better, but it's just not there. Twitch's platform is good. I mean, they have perfected their UI. Their mobile app is pretty good. The chat, all that stuff works really well. They've got their payment system with Twitch Bits and all of this other stuff that works.
Well, they're also working on doing 4K streams and then multi-encode live streams, which the multi-encode live streams, I don't know if people have really looked into that. Well, what they're doing now with all the boob streamers would be perfect. Having multiple camera angles that people can switch between in the stream.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that they're going to be doing with it. It's very little to do with video gaming. This is a feature when you want to have multiple camera angles. And where are they going to want to have multiple camera angles?
But I'll make this point to you. Who is going to be using that anyway? And so for these boob streamers, as you so eloquently call them, for these individuals, what are they? They're not generating massive amounts of revenue for Twitch, because guess what they're doing, Brian? Yeah. They're shoveling everybody off site to their OnlyFans. Yeah. So they might be getting a little bit of some Twitch bits here and there, and some of the what are they called? The Twitch. What is it when you subscribe to a channel? Whatever that's called, the subscription. When they might get a little bit of that, but all of those content creators are selling their stuff off platform. So Twitch is getting none of that cut. 0% of that cut.
Well, and this is where I think this will have a use in, because I'm trying to think of like, why would I want to go to Twitch versus YouTube? If they can get it to where you don't have to have the streamer on, you can either switch between their computer or their camera and things like that. That'll be nice. But I think it's still a ways out. And I think YouTube could very easily integrate something like this.
But
I mean, I'm sure they're working on something right now.
I don't know that you. So it's funny you bring this up. So I remember back like a while ago, NBC with their Sunday Night Football, and I don't even know if they still do it. You used to be able to go to their website and view a bunch of different camera angles from the end zones, from all over the place. And it was cool. They used to promote it. I haven't heard about it in years. It's been at least 5 or 6 years since I've heard them talk about it. I'm not sure they even offer that as an option anymore. I don't think the users are asking for that. I don't think the streamers are asking for that realistically. It's just to me, it's just another useless feature.
I mean, there'll be uses for it, but they're going to be pretty niche because it's going to take a lot of setup and, let's say scene setups and things in OBS to be able to really take advantage of this. I could see Dr. Disrespect taking advantage of it, but he's not on Twitch anymore.
But again, for what though?
There's very few that actually, just to get different camera angles and just being silly with it, or having one where if someone wants to watch his computer all the time and doesn't want to do the cutaways, things like that.
Maybe.
or if you're a part of his club, then you have the ability to see all camera angles, or you can see their curated feed, which is him switching it.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
things like that. I mean, you'll get the hardcore dedicated, but I think most people just aren't interested in it.
Yeah, very true.
So
So
we'll see. We'll have things in there for that.
Yeah, I mean, and I just before we started the show, I was just listening to a podcast with Leo Laporte. He was on I don't remember what the name of the podcast was that he was on, but he was talking about his podcast network, Twit, and he said that their peak was 2015, 2016. Right, that's when this stuff was booming on the internet, where everybody was constant live content. We're not there anymore. Those numbers, I think, are trending downward.
Yeah, and people are wanting more of the short clips.
They're watching TikTok and Instagram.
Exactly. That's where I was going. It was TikTok and Instagram, that kind of a feeling of, just getting information here, getting information there, rather than watching that hour, kind of like a podcast, that hour dedicated to whatever topic it is you like. That's what Leo Laporte's whole thing is, or was.
The saving grace for Twitch is that I think a lot of their activity is background, which is good because it's viewers, but it's not engaged viewers. So when you're background, because there's a lot of people that have stuff on while they work. Obviously, I don't do that. That doesn't work in my industry. I can't listen to something in the background that doesn't typically play itself too well. But if you're just, Brian, you're sitting in front of your desk for 6 hours working and you've got Twitch maybe even minimized behind a screen, you're not engaging. You're not buying bits, which they get a cut of. You're probably not subscribing to the channel, which they're not getting a cut of either. You're just using bandwidth. You are just costing them money.
Yep.
I don't know.
And that's a huge percentage of their user base.
I think so. I think the background activity is really killing them.
Well, but plus all these kids. I mean, you've got a lot of kids that are watching these things. They have a limited amount of money they're bringing to the table.
Sure. And limited attention spans, too, if we're being honest about it.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I think this year is going to be an interesting year for everything. I mean, with the economy, it's an election year. Who knows what chaos is about to ensue?
Yeah.
I think it's only beginning. So
let's talk about, we're talking about how everything sucks, Brian, and it's all falling apart. Netflix, who we've heard them in and out of the video game industry for quite some time, they say they have 90 games, 90 games in development.
And they said that they launched 40 games this past year.
I don't know of any of them.
These are little mobile games like, for whatever game show that they're launching.
And I've seen none of them.
They're little mini games. Yeah. And so I don't know necessarily, these are going to be, they're showing ones. There's Rockstar. I don't know. Are they putting the original Grand Theft Autos on their service, possibly? The trilogy? Yeah, it's on Netflix.
This happened in December. I know nothing about it.
Yeah, so they've got a number of different bigger studio games. So Game Dev Tycoon is coming in 2024.
Oops.
I just wonder, Sonic Mania Plus. A lot of these are ones that are already made. These are games that are coming. So these are different than those are probably the ones that they've already added.
Here's the issue for me. I have never used Netflix on my phone. I don't even have it installed. So I'm never seeing any of this stuff. I don't even think I have Netflix anymore. But when I did, I only ever watched it on my computer or watched it on a Roku or a smart TV. Yeah. I never watch. I don't watch. The only time I watch content on my phone is when I'm going to bed. I mean, if any other time I'm watching YouTube on my computer or same thing, watching it on the Roku. I know I'm probably abnormal in that respect because I know a lot of people do. All they do is watch content on their phone. But if you're not using the mobile app, I guess you just don't see any of this stuff.
Yep. Because they said by the end of last year, they had about 86 games available. All included with every Netflix membership without ads, in-app purchases, or extra fees.
That's nuts.
So, and with nearly 90 games, more in development, they said they're just getting started. So that's pretty big. That, I don't know if you want to play that video. It's
Where?
what, 1 minute and 40 seconds
Oh,
of what's
okay.
coming in 2024.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah,
It looks like kind of generic music in the background. So
okay, yeah, hold on.
Flagged for it.
Oh, why isn't it? Oh, there we go.
Sonic.
SpongeBob Get Cooking, Overcooked.
Can't go wrong there.
Solitaire. Dead Cells. So these games streamed?
I get maybe.
It says no in-game ads. I'm gonna have to install Netflix on my phone and give this a shot this week because I have no idea.
Because some of these games, it wouldn't make sense to stream.
I agree.
They're smaller games. You're gonna use way more bandwidth just streaming it than you would installing it.
Oh, there's the original Sonic.
I have a feeling that they're actually installed.
So what is Netflix? So is it like an app store inside of Netflix? How could that work?
That's what it seems like. Except for it's, you don't pay. It's part of your subscription, but yeah, it looks like it's more of an app store inside. And they've got ones they call like Netflix Stories.
Those are based off their shows, yeah.
Based off of a show like Love Is Blind and things like that. And then ones that already exist, Chicken Run, Extraction, things like that. Yeah, it'll be pretty.
I guess
cool.
we're just too. I guess
part of them.
I guess we're just getting too old.
I know, but that's the thing. That's probably what it is. But that makes sense for what they're doing. I can totally understand that if there's a ton of people that do use the app, a ton of kids have the app installed to watch things. If you already got it in there, okay, now you have access to games that maybe you wouldn't have had access to before.
Yeah. Oh,
and it keeps people launching the app.
Definitely, absolutely.
Well, I want to mention something. Sorry, this is kind of off topic, but the day before devs, they replied. You know how they last week. You talked about how they shut down.
Yeah, 45 days.
Yeah. One thing. Here's a quote from them, and I want to get you whether or not you think this is accurate. They said, "We implemented everything shown in the trailers," and that was something that they said. Then, of course, there was a correction on Twitter.
Community.
Their game claims that the finished product only had minor changes from the original release trailer is a blatant lie, as demonstrated in this video. And then they have a video link. The game was a scam by every measurable metric. And then they have
community notes. I know a lot of people give Elon Musk crap. Community notes are the greatest thing in the world because they genuinely are accurate. Like 90% of the time, the community notes are absolutely spot on.
There's people trying to game that system, but I think they've done a pretty good job of keeping it pure for the most part.
Yeah, you can try and game the system on something, but once it gets picked up more broadly and more mainstream, you can't because you can go in there and rate if it's an accurate community tip or not.
Well, and then fantastic, they deleted their original tweet. And
I'm sure they did.
The announcement shortly after, getting even more negative feedback as a result, because they didn't like that being tagged.
Sure. Yeah. Well, then don't post on Twitter.
Yeah, because you'll get called out. I just thought that was kind of funny. I saw that pop up, and I was like, I remember because I talked about it. I was like, all these things that they said they were going to do, there's no way they could do it without changing the game. Well, when you have to change your whole game, like what the type of game it is, that is not making it true to the original trailer. It's a totally different game than the original trailer. So
yeah.
Do we have time for one more thing?
Yeah, we got time for one more quick one. What you got?
Okay, so I wanted to talk here really quickly about Call of Duty.
My favorite.
Activision updates Call of Duty code of conduct to combat toxicity. And I know you're not playing it as much and haven't been in there. They clarified its rules regarding cheating as well as the progress of its new voice moderation system, which is the one where they're going to be listening to your voice chats.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do any type of bullying, harassment, derogatory comments based on race, gender identity, or expression, sexual orientation, age, culture, faith, mental or physical abilities, or country of origin, or the amplification of any person, agenda, or movement that promotes discrimination or violence based on the above, that you will get banned. So this it's a pretty crazy list of...
this is a great reason to use Discord and not use Game Chat.
That's
plain
true.
And simple.
Because because this right here, you won't be able to have banter in there anymore, because what are you going to say?
GG.
Yeah, good game. That's all they want to do.
Yeah.
Or you have to talk in code so heavily that you won't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, Call of Duty just ain't doing it.
I mean, we
can't
anymore. Say I totally killed you. Like, can you say that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't think they're going to. I mean, here's the thing.
It depends on what you end. I killed you, and then what you end it with might make a difference.
I understand what's going on here. This is a company that's trying to CYA in regards to content online. They're trying to cover themselves. I'm sure folks have brought lawsuits against them over harassment or things in the game. This is them just putting that out there, trying to dispel it. I think it's stupid, but as a company, I understand why you would do this. I mean, I'm not ignorant to the fact of that, at the end of the day, it is still your game. It is still your product, right?
I mean, if anything, you're just going to get it to where people, just as you said, don't use the in-game voice chat anymore.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Or they're just so sarcastic, they'll just be saying, yeah, you did great. Every time someone dies.
Exactly. All right, Brian, where do folks find you online?
Yeah, if you want to find me at Boise Computer on X, or if you want to get at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, wherever else. Of course, you can go check out my blog, biteoftech.com, or go to infectionpodcast.com. And on the upper right-hand side, just join our server on Discord, because if you do that, that means that you can join one of our 11 ARC servers. You can come hang out, maybe in talks of politics. If you want to submit a news text link that you have there, we have a show news channel, maybe a video, article, anything like that. Toss that link in there, and we'll review it before the live show starts. If you do want to watch that live show, you can do that through Twitch or YouTube, or we upload after the fact when it works on Rumble. Of course, if you want to listen to the podcast form, which is our most popular, let's go to the lower right-hand side, pick whatever device platform you want to use to listen, and there's lots of options to be able to do that. If you are listening or watching on Rumble, that means the show notes have already been uploaded, and so you can go into that particular episode show notes with the video audio player built into that page, and also links for everything that we discussed throughout the show. So if there's something that we reference that you want to dig into more, or maybe see the full video of, you're more than welcome to jump in there and click on those links and check that out. If you want to support us, there is a support menu option up top, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support.
Yes, sirree. You can definitely do that. Brian, as always, thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. All right, folks. That's going to do it for another episode of Infection. You can check me out on Twitter or X at Nicholas M. Craig. Check out my website, nickcraig.com. Or, of course, as Brian mentioned, our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.